Thank you for joining us today to talk about the subject of non-convergence in the hard red winter wheat market. Dan O'Brien and myself prepared this slide set that we would like to go over with you and discuss this important issue. Non-convergence is being presented in a series of 3 videos. First of all, we're going to address what is non-convergence. This may be a new term to some of you. You may not have seen it before, but it is real and it is impacting especially co-op elevators and farmers who do their own hedging directly. Even if they don't do their own hedging, they indirectly are impacted by what occurs at the local country elevator. After identifying it, we're going to talk about some policies which might address the non-convergence. And in the third tape, or video I should say, we will discuss how it affects crop insurance. So, starting with non-convergence. Non-convergence occurs when futures and cash don't converge at the same price during the delivery period. It can go wide when you're outside the delivery period, but inside the delivery period, the assumption of all short hedges is that those two prices, futures and cash, futures and the real market, will come together. Let's take a second and go to the blackboard and actually work a little case problem to show you how the numbers work in this non-convergence. Many farmers don't actually hedge the crop, but they depend on the co-op elevator to offer them derivatives of hedges such as forward contracts and hedge to arrive. Let's go to the blackboard and see how this hedge works and why non-convergence is so important. Let's assume, and I'm going to make really simple numbers, but they're close to what happened this year. I'm going to start off with a futures position where we have futures at $5. At the same time, we're expecting a zero basis at delivery in the delivery locations, so we're also expecting $5. And if this wheat's in the bin already, it is in fact worth $5. Okay. Now, in this year, the price really fell on the futures markets, and it came down to approximately $4. And at this point, if we are short hedger, we've got $1 in our brokerage account. But over here, the cash price has fallen to $3, or even lower in some cases this year. And in that case, when it comes down to $3, we've lost $2 over in the cash market. So when we balance out our equation, all of a sudden we have lost $1. Because we gained $1 here, but we lost $2 over here. Had we had convergence, however, that would have meant that the futures would have come down not to $4, but to $3. If it had come down to $3, then we would have had $2 over in our hedge account. We still lose the $2 over here in the cash market, either grain that's in storage or growing in the field. It really doesn't matter. And our basis is 0. We have convergence and you have transferred the price risk. The hard red winter wheat contract has several delivery points, primarily in central Kansas. They are Wichita, Salina, Hutchinson, and also the delivery point in Kansas City. These delivery points were set up by the Kansas City Board of Trade, which has since been sold to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which we refer to as the CME. Non-convergence causes a wide basis and reduces the effectiveness of the short hedge, which is what we showed with our little simple case problem on the board. In this year, we didn't really lose $1. We haven't yet. We don't see this convergence coming together soon. But at this point, we're talking about 70 to 80 cents. In the example, I used $1. It just made the arithmetic really easy to follow. And it's important to understand why that convergence did not happen. We believe the cash price is the real market. It is not a conspiracy. There's nothing going on that is not hard to understand if you just understand where all the players are. And you need to do nothing more than drive across the state of Kansas and see all the corn and wheat and soybeans that are stacked out on the ground. And the reason is we're out of storage, and when you put it outside, you know it's going to lose quality. Some of that wheat will be sold off as feed wheat before we get rid of all of it. So in that environment, you can anticipate the cash price is going to fall. Unfortunately, from the hedger standpoint, the futures did not fall with it. Now, this chart is showing you what those bases looks like in a normal delivery period as well as abnormal. And this is the actual delivery period, the first 14 days of the delivery month. Now, not every day is a trading day, so this is only the trading days during that first 14 days. And this is expressed in terms of dollars, and this is for Central Kansas. The cash price here is from Agricultural Marketing Service, which is a USDA agency. One of the things you run into is it's very difficult to nail down exactly what a cash price is. It is really all over the board. The cash price that we track basis with here on Ag Manager, in fact, is a cash price that's listed in the newspapers, etc. The problem is you don't know if there are any sales made at that cash price. If there were sales made at that cash price, you don't know if it was 1 truckload or if it was 100 truckloads. It obviously makes a difference. So to be consistent, we used AMS price. The thing is, it's for Central Kansas, not a specific location. And on top of that, the cash price is quoted as a minimum and a maximum cash price for that day by AMS. We used the highest price that they posted. So that makes the bases as narrow as possible using the cash prices from the Ag Marketing Service. As you can see, you look back in history, and back in years 2010 and 11, we had a very wide basis, the same issue as we have right now, running down to about 85 cents, and that's using the highest cash price posted by AMS, not the lowest. So it was very wide, and that did prompt some changes. The Kansas City hard red winter wheat contract changed the storage rate in the contract from 6 cents to 9 cents approximately per month for the first 6 months of the marketing year, starting July 1 through December 1st, and then on December 1st, that storage rate drops back to 6 cents. This is important because one of the arguments is that the storage is undervalued. Again, you get too much of something, the price falls, and if you don't have enough of something, the price goes up. In this case, we don't have enough storage. And as a result, the storage is more valuable than what is being listed in those contracts. Now, you look after that, they made that change. By the way, the Chicago wheat contract, which is now obviously owned by CME too, it is based off of a shipping certificate, a little bit different than the warehouse receipt that identifies the hard red winter wheat contract. But in the case of the Chicago contract, they put in something called variable rate storage. We'll talk more about that in the other videos. But essentially, the variable rate storage is designed to raise the storage rate when you get into this situation of non-convergence in the market. In any case, you'll notice that through much of that period, it was roughly minus 10 cents to a plus 10 cents. I consider that just noise. Could be difference in protein, etc. All right around zero. Again, this is delivery period during the delivery month at delivery locations. Notice that we look at the chart over on to the far right to the September 2016 contract, the most recent one to go off the board, and we are now approaching the levels that we had back in 2011 and 2010 with a minus 70 cents, not quite to the minus 85, but getting close. However, if I express this in percentage terms, in other words, the percentage difference between cash and futures during the delivery period, in percentage terms, it's now lower than it was back in 2010, or wider basis, if you will. The reason is back in 2016, or 2016, we were dealing with very low prices. You go back to 2011 period, and the prices were much higher. So a 50-cent reduction in 2010 through 11 was a very small amount compared to a 50-cent reduction in 2016. Cash price, as we said, we think that's the correct price. That's what the market is selling for. It's driven by a whole lot of things, including high quality wheat needed for milling bread, but also to ship in the international markets. And of course, a lot of the wheat gets shipped out of the country. The major point that I want to leave you with and make sure you grasp onto is farmers cannot deliver grain. There is no way farmers can deliver grain against their futures. I'm sure many of you, when you first learned about futures and how hedges work, you were told, well, you sell your wheat on the board prior to harvest, for example, and then at harvest time, you go out on the board and you buy that contract back, or you deliver 5,000 bushels of wheat to a delivery point. For hard red winter wheat, that means you load up 5 trucks, move them to Hutchinson, Kansas, which sits right in the middle of a wheat field, and deliver those 5,000 bushels. The problem is farmers cannot deliver. I know that is not what you thought the way it worked, and I know that many people are still assuming it works that way, but whatever you do, don't get caught in the delivery period. You need to roll that hedge before you get into a delivery month if you are a farmer or a local co-op elevator. Because you could get caught in a long, short squeeze in that kind of market where they're really asking more than the market's worth to let you get out of the market. Now, having said that, that is the fundamental reason why you don't necessarily get convergence, is because the amount of grain that actually gets delivered is relatively a small amount compared to the crop. What is actually being delivered, and this takes a little time to think about, you're really not delivering wheat, you're delivering a warehouse receipt in the case of hard red winter wheat. It is a shipping certificate if we're talking about the soft wheat contract, or often referred to as the Chicago contract. So we are not delivering wheat. We are not trading wheat either. We're trading the value of the warehouse receipt. And in today's market, because of these storage limitations, that warehouse receipt has more value than the underlying wheat. If you took delivery of that wheat in September for, say, around $4, you would have got a $20,000 margin call the next day, the full value of the contract. And what you will do is leave it in storage, and that's because the deferred contracts are bidding high enough to cover all your storage costs to hang on to that grain. And the other reason, if you actually converted that contract into actual wheat that you paid $4 for it, you'd get about $3 in the cash market. So in that environment, there's a big incentive not to convert that paper into real wheat. We're also concerned that those contracts, those paper contracts, will keep building. In other words, as more of them are put on the market, nobody's going to cash them in. They're just going to hang on to them until we start getting convergence. And that's something that we have looked at, and we think that unless there's a crop failure in Australia, that likely we are to see this non-convergence continue into the next summer's crop. Just want to add that this is just the introductory video. You might want to look at the other 2 videos, and also to call your attention to agmanager.info, where more information will be provided in the future. This is an ongoing issue. We are still learning. There's a lot I don't think we fully appreciate. We've been talking to a number of industry people, plus reading the available research on this issue. This is our contact information. Feel free to contact us either by phone or email. We'd be glad to answer your questions. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you receive something out of this presentation.